The House will come to order. The presentation of colors will be offered by Pikes Peak Region Scouts. The pledge will be led by Isabel Foster, Harper Darling, Augie Ingwelson from Cotton Creek Elementary, Westminster, Colorado, and Ava Yoon from Academy Elementary, Westminster, Colorado.
Please join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge the allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Culler, please call the roll.
Representatives Arndt. Becker J. Becker K. Brown. Buck. Buckner. Carver. Conti. Corum. Court. Danielson. Del Grosso. Dorr. Duran. Esgar. Everett. Fields. Foote. Garnett. Janal. Hamner. Humphrey. I'm her. Well, our guys got women. Representative Joshi. Kagan. Kaiser. Klingenschmidt. Kraft-Tharp. Landgraf. Lawrence. Lebsock. Representative Lebsock.
Representative Lebsock excused.
Lee. Representative Lebsock is present. Lundin. Lundin. McCann. Melton.
Mitch Bush. Moreno. Representative Moreno. There he is. Navarro. Neville. Nordberg. Pabon. Pedersen. Primavera. Priola. Rankin. Representative Rankin. There he is. Ransom. Rosenthal.
Rosenthal, Representative Rosenthal excused.
Rupé. Bryden. Same. Salazar. Zayas. Singer. Tate. Thurlow. Tyler. Van Winkle. Vigil. Willett.
Representative Willett excused.
Williams. Wilson. Winholz. Winter. Young. Madam Speaker.
Here. With 63 present, 2 excused, a quorum is present. Representative Garnett.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I move that the reading of the Journal of Thursday, February 12th be dispensed with and that it be approved as corrected by the Chief Clerk. I'm on time.
Representative Melton.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And members, I am sorry, but I feel that Representative Garnett got off a little easy yesterday. Given that I did not realize that would be a settled question, I move a different motion this morning. I move a substitute motion that Representative Garnett read the journal, yesterday's journal in its entirety in a love sonnet in honor of Valentine's Day.
You've heard the motion that the journal be read at length by Representative Garnett. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say no. No. The noes have it. So we are back to the original motion, which is to adopt the journal as corrected by the Chief Clerk. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. No. The noes have it. There will be a collection later on for Representative Garnett. Announcements and introductions. Okay, well, would you correct it, please? I think they knew what I meant. So, announcements and introductions. Representative Pedersen. Yeah. Representative Pedersen.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I just want to wish everybody an early happy Valentine's Day to all the amazing women that I'm lucky enough to work with. You should have a rose on your desk. Please come see me if you don't. I have some extras. So thank you for all the wonderful work that you do.
Representative Pedersen, I didn't see my rose.
Madam Speaker, you have 6 in your office.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you. Representative Esgar.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Members, I would just like to introduce some members from the Boy Scouts of America are with us today, and I have some very special guests in the corner up here from Pueblo, if we can give them a hand for joining us. Thank you.
Representative Hamner.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And I need to call the Capitol Choir down here this morning. We have a Valentine's Day birthday tomorrow for our lovely caucus chair, Angela Williams, celebrating her birthday tomorrow. So I need the Capitol Choir, please. Representative Wilson, we need your voice down here. He's not listening. All right. So please join me in singing a a happy birthday to Representative Williams. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, Representative Williams. Happy birthday to you.
Representative Williams, happy birthday.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I have asked to be excused at mid-morning today, and I have gotten that approved by the Madam Majority Leader and the Minority Leader. Thank you.
Representative Williams will be excused at the appointed time. Representative Thurlow.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Thank you, members. I would like to introduce to you today from Grand Junction, we have the mayor of Grand Junction, Phyllis Norris, the administrator of legislative liaison, Elizabeth Jenda, and we have our city manager from Grand Junction, Rich Engelhardt. Please say hi to the Grand Junction representatives.
Representative Fields.
Good morning, Madam Speaker. Colleagues, I have some special guests here today. They're over here to the left side of the benches here. Please welcome Ken, Christy, Caitlin, and Kiana Arlino. Thank you for being here today.
You are fined $2, Representative Fields. Representative Mitch Bush.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. It's Friday, and a great way to spend Valentine's Day is to go skiing. Our ski resorts all got a little snow over the week, and they'll get a little more on Monday. But I have a special place in my heart for Vail, like nowhere on earth, Beaver Creek, home of the Birds of Prey and Raptor Downhill, and, of course, Steamboat, a ski area started by ranchers with the best tree skiing in the world.
Representative Lundin.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Ladies and gentlemen, the Boy Scouts today are in the Senate, but they are also in the House. As an Eagle Scout, I stand before you to say that in Colorado, the Boy Scouts of America provides an ongoing adventure that teaches youth a powerful set of real-life skills, develops fundamental qualities that help 77,986 youth members become prepared for life. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. Thanks to the Scouts. Representative Winter.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The color guard this morning was from the Scouts in the Pikes Peak region and include a special guest. My cousin Mark and my aunt and uncle are part of the color guard. So if we can give the color guard one more round of applause, that would be fantastic.
Thank you, Representative, and thanks to the color guard. Representative Primavera.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Public Health and Human Services Committee members, you're going to be really happy today. We took one bill off the calendar, House Bill 1188 by Ryden and Primavera. So we will be hearing 1179 and 1082. And then on Tuesday, February 17th, Minority Leader Del Grosso and Assistant Minority Leader Moreno will go first with House Bill 1120.
Representative Wilson.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Colleagues, next Thursday will be Hot Dog Day at the Capitol again. Christy and I are bringing hot dogs. If you want to order any of those boxes, let Christy know before we leave for the weekend. Thank you.
Representative Moreno.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Members, I have a very special guest here today, a student from my district, from Adams City High School, where I attended high school, Alexis Gonzalez. Please help me welcome her to the chamber.
Representative Moreno, $2. Representative Buckner.
As you know,
February is Black History Month. On your desks, each of you has a list of all of the legislators since 1895 that were Black legislators who have served in this body and the Senate. During my lifetime, I had hoped that Black History Month really was eliminated in favor of Black history being a significant part of the history of this country, so that they were all respected in the same manner. But as you look at this list, note that diversity of representation is an important part of our system and a value that we should all hold. And so the list includes 30 people in the House of Representatives, 7 senators, 1 Senate president, and 1 Speaker of the House. I appreciate your attention, and I want to applaud the efforts of those former legislators. Thank you much.
Further announcements and introductions. Seeing none, the next order of business is General Orders, second reading of bills. Representative Young.
Madam Speaker, I move the House now resolve itself into committee of the whole in consideration of general orders.
You have heard the motion. Seeing no objections, Representative Young will take the chair.
Is that on? There we go. The committee will come to order. With your unanimous consent, the bills will be read by title unless there is a request for reading a bill at length. Committee amendments will not be read unless requested, as they are printed and are in your bill folders. Floor amendments will be shown on the screen and not read unless requested. Bills will be laid over upon motion of the majority leader. And on Friday the 13th, the coat rule is relaxed except for everybody is relaxed and their coat rule is relaxed. Mr. Kohler, please read the title of House Bill 1070.
House Bill 1070, Representative Buckner, also Senator Martinez-Humenek, concerning changes to the crime profits distribution statute.
Representative Buckner.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move House Bill 1070. And it has no committee report.
Please proceed.
House Bill 1070 is the restructuring of a bill to distribute.
Excuse me, Representative Buckner.
I'm sorry.
Apparently, it does have a committee report.
Judiciary.
Judiciary.
I'm sorry.
Do you want both of these back? Yep.
I move the Judiciary Committee report.
To the Judiciary report.
Judiciary passed Judiciary passed the report on a unanimous vote.
Is there further discussion? Seeing none, the question before us is the adoption of the committee report from the Judiciary Committee. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, no. The Judiciary report passes. To the bill.
Mr. Chairman, I move House Bill 1070.
To the bill, please, Representative Buckner.
The bill is intended to streamline the process for providing restitution to victims of crime when a perpetrator makes a profit. The process has been slimlined. It causes the victims to receive their money much quicker and eliminates the need for it to go in escrow for an extended period of time. It's a good bill. I I move that it be adopted.
Is there further discussion? Seeing none, the question before us is the passage of House Bill 1070. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. House Bill 1070 passes. Mr. Kohler, please read the title of House Bill 1072.
House Bill 1072 by Representative Fields, also Senator Newell, concerning harassment through an interactive electronic medium.
Representative Fields.
Good morning, Mr. Chair.
Good morning to you.
I move 1072, and there is no committee report.
Thank you, Representative Fields. To the bill, please.
Members, you may remember this bill, last session. It was called cyber bullying. We passed that bill out of this chambers with 54 yes votes. It went over to the Senate, and you know what happens when things go over to the Senate. They kind of hijacked my bill and they turned it into a study. So what happened this summer is that there was a committee, and it went to the Colorado Commission on Criminal and Juvenile Justice. It's known as CCJJ. They were tasked with trying to study cyberbullying to determine the most effective strategies to prevent this behavior. They were charged with looking at current criminal statutes that address the acts of intimidation through bullying on the internet, cellular phones, and other social media, and to come up with an approach. The commission was formed, and the members were Chief of Police Kevin Pilata, Jennifer Bradford from the Metropolitan State University, Christine Bite, Detective from Douglas County Sheriff's Office, Maureen Kane, Criminal Defense Bar, Kelly Friesen, Senate Bill 94 Coordinator, Grand County, Chris Harms, the Director of Colorado School Safety Resource Center, Denise Mayes from the American Civil Liberties Union, Patty Mosher, Victims Advocate, Douglas County Sheriff's Office, Linda Newell, Colorado Senator, District 29, Tom Raines, Executive Director of the Colorado District Attorney's Council. Also, the Division of Criminal Justice, CDCJ, staffed the committee, and it was staffed with 5 employees: Jenny Smith, King English, Jana Locke, Ken Polis, and Lawrence Lucero. While they studied the topic of cyberbullying, they reviewed all of our current statutes and current law. And they said in their report that bullying is on the increase. And these are some of the statistics that they mentioned. Girls are more likely to be bullied of victims. The offenders are just likely to be students who are earning A's, but once they start being bullied, their grades drops to C's and D's. Once someone is bullied, it reports that they fall into a low self-esteem category. The national trend for bullying is 1.7 times more likely they're attempted to commit suicide. And let's see. And the report goes on. The report is about, 11 pages. So they did some very thorough work. And so what they've done with this bill is that they changed the term. So instead of it being called cyberbullying, they wanted to create more clarity with the bill in that term as it relates to putting in our criminal code. So the term is now called harassment through an interactive electronic medium. So at this point, I'm going to stop there, Mr. Chair, and turn it over to my colleagues here. It looks like they have some amendments.
Thank you, Representative Fields. Representative Lundin.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We all know bullying is wrong. I don't think there's a member of this House that thinks bullying is an appropriate thing to do. And we should stop it in ways more effective than would this bill. We will affect this issue best by proactively communicating with our young people about the harm and inappropriateness and indecency of bullying, not by threatening the right of people of good character and clear conscience to speak freely. This bill, if left unamended, is far too broad, to the point of being largely unenforceable. Regarding that enforceability challenge, under cross-examination, the District Attorney's Counsel reported that the bill provides them with a tool, but reaching for this tool puts us on a slippery slope that slides away from freedom of expression, which is so fundamental to who we are as a society. Further, in consultation with a DA that I work with frequently, I've been released to say that given the current language of this bill, that particular DA would not feel comfortable, nor would he be able to use this law in a prosecution. Therefore, the item represented as a tool is in fact no tool at all. That, linked with the dynamic nature of conversation, especially as we experience it on the internet, causes me to be a no vote on this. As much as we abhor a comment that indirectly offends or annoys us, we must defend that level of speech and work to motivate civil behavior by virtue of our example, our behavior, and the way we interact with other human beings. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Representative Fields.
I want to thank Representative Lundin for his comments about one DA across our state indicating that that's not a tool that he would use. We all have a toolbox, and we have tools in them. Sometimes we use those tools, sometimes we don't. But what I've heard from the DA's counsel is this is a tool, a practical tool that would be available for them and for police departments. Just because one DA doesn't want to use the tool doesn't negate the importance of this bill and having the ability to use this tool. This bill and this concept of cyberbullying is nothing new. I can cite through the study other states that have cyberbullying, harassment through intimidation as it relates to computer interactive devices. It's a tool that's being used all across our nation. And I think it's a sad day in Colorado when we want to try to use First Amendment speech as a way to promote bullying. So I continue to urge a yes vote on House Bill 1072.
Representative Dorr.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Representative Williams, thank you for bringing this bill Fields, for bringing this bill and continuing the discussion on this important topic. And in committee, we had a robust discussion. And I think it's been one of the, I've only been on judiciary for half a session, not even that far yet. And to see the district attorney's office and the public defender's office sit at the same table with Representative Fields in the middle of the two, not having to break up a fight between them, but talking about constitutional issues. And it actually reminded me of, maybe not remind is the right word, gave me nightmares of what I used to do in law school in constitutional law, debating the constitutionality of free speech and what is this and what is that. But we are tasked here to make sure that we continue to promulgate laws that best fit the problems which we are trying to cure. And we have heard the word tool used over the last 10 minutes here, a few too many times probably, but I think we have to remember that when you're going to use a tool out of the toolbox, you want to make sure that tool is sharp and can be used in the best and most efficient way possible, and not that it's dull and cannot be used to meet its desired goal. And that's part of what the problem I think we find here. And there were really three areas of this legislation that were problematic in my opinion. Not a problem that we can't cure, but a problem that we need to address. First is constitutional vagueness. We had the discussion at some length in the committee, and I don't think we actually came to a resolution where everybody was in agreement that this would totally pass muster. There's some case law out there that may give us a little bit of guidance that it could go this way or that way when the decision is made. But I think that has to be addressed. One of the other concerns around the constitutionality of it was, does this unintentionally chill speech? And while we do not want anybody bullying or harassing or causing harm to another, we also have to make sure that we protect speech. And sometimes we may not like that speech, and sometimes that speech may even be directed at one of us because of a position we have on a piece of legislation. But we don't want to chill that speech. And so I have a concern that some of the language in the bill would chill that speech as it goes. We heard over and over again how this legislation focuses on cyberbullying, in particular minors. And if I recall, Representative Fields, I think we had a group of students from, and I forget the academy's name, present themselves and talk about the issues that they see in this new age of technology that keeps growing and growing, where it's not yelling across the room or sending a note that you wrote and passing it across the few seats. It's become much different. You can now tweet stuff. You can text stuff. You can do things that may not even be intended to go after somebody, but just to say something, and they end up in the hands of that person because they happen to open up the Facebook page that comment was on. And my fourth issue with it, and Representative Fields, you and I have spoken about it a little bit, was the authority that in the decision making on what was direct or indirect ultimately was going to be made by the police officer on the street. And while I respect to the utmost the police officer's ability to do their job, making that decision if that communication was indirect or direct, and if it was meant to do harm or not harm, I have a little bit of concern about. As we have seen police, 90+% of them do their job correctly. There's that small percentage that abuse their powers. And we don't want to give them tools that allow them to come after somebody when something is direct or indirect, and that is the decision-making factor is the police officer. My last concern of it is, while we're talking about bullying, the statute that we are referring to is the harassment statute. And the language that is pulling out of it to be put into the harassment statute is coming from the stalking statute. And I pull real quick the stalking statute to show the comparison and part of the problem. In the stalking statute, it's a person commits stalking if, and these are the two key words, they are directly or indirectly through another person, the person knowingly makes a credible threat to a person and in connection with repeatedly follows. And those are the key parts, repeatedly follows. That's in the stalking statute. Now take that direct and indirect language from the stalking statute, put it into the statute in front of us today that we are going to be debating with regards to harassment. And that statute says directly, indirectly initiates communication, but there's nothing down there that's repeatedly. And that becomes the more of that, who's going to decipher that? Who's going to be the one that decides that's indirectly or directly, and is that one time enough? Because stalking, we can all sort of figure out stalking is when you do it repeatedly. If I follow you, Representative Fields, back to your office once, I'm following you, and maybe just happen to walk in that same direction. If I do it 2, 3, or 4 times, that begins to get in the area of stalking. It's a little easier to define that. This one, in this statute, on the harassment statute, is not as easy to define. So the bigger issues that I want to start off addressing are, while the focus wants to be on minors, and I don't disagree with that, we should make sure that our children of today growing up in this tough age are protected from unnecessarily being abused, if you will, by language. We should focus on minors. And also make sure that the stalking statute doesn't become the harassment statute, which you're dealing with an apples and oranges comparison in trying to implement it. So with that, I would offer L009 and ask that it be properly displayed. And then I will move, once displayed, L009.
Thank you. L009 is properly displayed before us. Please proceed, Representative Dorr.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Members, this amendment focuses on the minor. And everybody, I won't speak for everybody in the committee, but I think a good majority of us understood that this issue is about minors. And when it comes to constitutional law and the effect of the freedom of speech, the courts have said that when it comes to minors, you can provide more protection. You can do more that may otherwise be seen as infringing upon the freedom of speech. But in the protection of minors, you're allowed to do a little more to protect our young youth in our society. And you won't be going overly broad and beyond intrusion into the freedom of speech, the First Amendment constitutional violation. And so I offer this amendment with the focus on minors. So we just add the section and it says harassment of a minor. And I'll let you, I don't have to read it for you. We all know how to read, I'm assuming here. And it goes through and names out what it would take. And it's the language towards the minor, anonymously or otherwise, by telephone network, data network, text messaging, all the other ways we can communicate to each other. And that harassment will stay as it is currently in the section, a Class 3 misdemeanor. So we actually heighten the issue a little bit if you're going after a minor. We're going to make it a Class 3 misdemeanor, which in the current piece that we're dealing with here today, I believe only sends it to a petty offense level. So I think we get to where we want to get to. We want to protect our youth, 18 and under, especially from those adults or others out there that want to do them harm, even if that harm is verbal. And I would ask for a yes vote on this amendment.
Mr. Minority Leader, Representative Del Grosso.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And members, we heard from the bill sponsor and all of her opening remarks about how this is to protect the children, the kids that when they're getting harassed, they see their grades drop. She said over and over and over and over again about how this is about the kids and protecting children from bullying and harassment. This amendment says just what she said this bill was about. So now, members, as the bill is written, it's pretty broad. So for instance, let's say Peyton Manning throws an interception and then Representative Melton goes onto a message board and talks about how Peyton Manning threw an interception, he sucks, he needs to be fired, he needs to be run out of town. Theoretically, the way this bill is written, Peyton Manning could now try to have Representative Melton brought up on charges for being upset with his play. That is not the intent of the bill. I know that is not what the sponsors are wanting to do, but as the bill is written, that could happen. So if this is truly about the kids, and if this bill is about protecting kids through being harassed through electronic mediums, that is what this amendment does. It narrows it down and says, okay, this is only if an adult or somebody else is harassing a child. So it avoids the situation that I just brought up where, you know, maybe Peyton Manning's being harassed by Representative Melton because he had poor play on the field. So I urge and I vote on this amendment as well.
Is there further discussion on Amendment L009? Representative Carver.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. First, I want to commend Representative Fields, even though this is my first term, sitting through her presentation in the committee and the young people that she brought forward who have suffered greatly from really vicious and cruel behavior aimed at trying to destroy their reputation is a serious issue that we need to address. But I have to say that the bill as written does not address the problem. First, having been both a prosecutor and a defense counsel, as well as talked extensively with my DA.
Representative Carver, to the amendment, please.
Yes, Mr. Chair. The amendment is an improvement on the underlying bill because the First Amendment makes clear that more restrictions on speech are allowed in order to protect minors. The bill as written is not restricted to minors and applies to adults broadly. And quite frankly, in July 2014, a court in New York struck down a very similar statute as the underlying bill is written because it applied to adults and was overbroad. even though the New York statute was intended to reach cyberbullying. So I believe the bill as written is constitutionally defective under First Amendment and is void for vagueness under due process. Courts are starting to find that this amendment resolves many of those issues and focuses on what we're really trying to get at, protecting kids. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Carver. Representative Belton.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And let me first of all make sure that the voters of House District 41 know that I would never say that Peyton Manning should be fired. But to get to the heart of this amendment, I rise in opposition to it. Unfortunately, harassment doesn't just happen to kids. It happens to adults. It happens to public officials. And when you do put yourself in the public sphere, I do understand that, yes, some things can be misconstrued in a way that would look like that they're being harassed by an online system. However, there still needs to be protections beyond just minors for adults who may be getting harassed by a significant other or an ex-significant other. There needs to be provisions that make sure that we protect adults from being harassed on the workplace. This is the reason why we even sit through harassment and tolerance classes here in the Capitol. So while I do respect what what this amendment is trying to do, I think that it does not address the full issue of harassment throughout this state. So I ask for a no vote on this amendment.
Representative Salazar.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This bill, we did have good debate on. And I had some concerns, too, about the language, thinking that it might be constitutionally vague and ambiguous, but only with respect to 3 words, directly or indirectly. This bill has been vetted through multiple stakeholders, as Representative Dorr said, from the Criminal Defense Bar to district attorneys to the ACLU, all of whom are attorneys, all of whom know about the First Amendment, all of whom know about constitutional vagueness and ambiguity, and every single one of those stakeholders said that this bill is constitutional, that the language directly or indirectly comes right out of the stalking statute, which has been held as constitutional. I myself, being a constitutional law attorney, asked the question multiple times about the language to ensure that this language was not vague and ambiguous, and they ensured multiple times that it was not. The amendment that we have in front of us has not been vetted by any of the stakeholders, from what I could gather. It did not go through that long, arduous vetting process. This is an amendment, and I have to say that I tip my hat to Representative Dorr for the amendment. But this is an amendment that has not undergone that rigorous scrutiny of the stakeholders. I ask for a no vote on this amendment.
Mr. Minority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Well, Representative Salazar, this amendment was brought by the opening comments of the sponsor, who kept talking over and over and over and over and over and over again about this is for the children, protecting the children. She gave several examples of how people's grades go down when they're harassed or bullied, and other examples of that, and kept talking about protecting children. And I brought up one example, and yes, it was making jest of that Peyton Manning could be harassed by somebody when he has poor play. But the reality is, and Representative Salazar, you might find this hard to believe, but not everybody in the state of Colorado agrees with me and my views on all of the issues that are out there. And guess what? Sometimes I get emails from people that might say some things that I don't like. And quite frankly, that would be stifling the citizens' First Amendment rights to be able to email me, or maybe go onto a site that says, well, Representative Del Grosso supports X, Y, and Z. He's a terrible person and we need to vote him out of office. Well, that would be the indirect, and that could be where you're trying to get me out. This is also protecting public officials, which I think is stopping people's First Amendment rights to be able to disagree with people who might be in my position. And so if this is truly, and that goes to show how broad this bill is, and if this bill is truly about protecting kids, which is what it's been sold to us as trying to do, that is what this amendment does. This amendment simply says if you're going to say this is about kids, we're going to make it about kids. And maybe it wasn't vetted with everybody that was in the stakeholder process, but it basically doesn't change the overall premise of the bill of we're trying to protect kids through electronic mediums, and that does not stop this from happening. It just narrows the scope of the bill. There again, I urge an aye vote.
Representative Kagan.
Thank you, and thank you, Mr. Chair. Could we move up and see the top of the amendment there, please? Strike lines 1 through 13. That's the real gist of this. It's striking the bill and replacing it. It is replacing it with new language. The focus is exclusively on minors. Now, one question is, and that's for the bill itself, should we have a harassment statute? But to say that you can intentionally harass, annoy, or alarm another person as long as they're over 18. As long as they're over 18. If you're an abusive spouse and you are intentionally annoying and harassing your 20-year-old wife in the course of divorce proceedings, with this amendment, that's okay. Because we've struck lines 1 through 13, and we're now only dealing with minors. I submit to you, members, that is not a good change in the law. To those who are concerned that this simply prohibits annoying people, and that is chilling and a violation of the First Amendment rights that we all love, share, and cherish, I say to you this: every prosecution has to go through the lens of whether there is a reasonable probability of conviction, beyond a reasonable doubt. And therefore, it is open to any defense lawyer to say, this is not an illegal harassment, this is a First Amendment right. And you have to have a reasonable probability of saying no, beyond a reasonable doubt. This goes way beyond what the First Amendment protects you from. So this would say it's okay to harass adults, maybe in an abusive situation, and this would proceed from the theory, if you vote no on the bill, that the First Amendment protections are revoked if we pass this bill. They are not. They will be a very big part of the prosecution decision, and they will be a very big part in any prosecution of the jury's decision. I urge a no vote on this amendment.
Representative Dorr.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Representative Kagan, and I hope that I didn't just have you waste 2 minutes of your life here, but it was a mistake in that it's supposed to be 111.5. We weren't striking the whole deal out. So it was a typo error on the draft. So there's a new amendment I'm just getting printed out that we will hand out. So it's adding to the harassment statute, not replacing the harassment statute. So it's adding a minor, it was a drafting error. So I apologize. I didn't catch that until you started saying it. I was like, what's he talking about? And then I realized what you were talking about.
Representative Salazar.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think, and just in response to the minority leader, Representative Del Grosso, I want to be careful in terms of thinking that this is something new. The harassment statute has been in existence in the state of Colorado for some time. So what Representative Fields is doing isn't developing an harassment statute because it already exists. She's adding language to the harassment statute. If you look at the old language, it just says, with the intent to harass, annoy, or alarm another person, he or she initiates communications with the person, anonymously or otherwise, in a manner intended to harass or threaten bodily injury or property. It already exists in statute. So if you're being harassed by a constituent or by somebody who doesn't agree with you, well, this statute is already here intended to protect you for such a long time. So members, don't get caught up in the idea that all of a sudden Representative Fields is trying to develop a new part of the statute. This part of the statute has been found to be constitutional for a long time. She's just adding language in there to protect people, all people, not just minors, but all people from bullying. And I urge a no vote on this amendment.
The committee is going to stand in a brief recess. To order. Representative Dorr.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Due to a truly small drafting error, I withdraw Amendment L010.
Nope. 009.
Oh, 009, I'm sorry. And move L011 and ask that be it displayed. Yes, I throw him under the bus.
Okay, L011 has been moved and properly displayed. Representative Dorr.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The only difference in this amendment is that, which was at the top, so it says add 189111.5. We forgot to add 189111.5 in the bold there for the harassment of a minor. Now the .5 is present and where we want to be, and we can continue the vibrant discussion.
Representative Kagan.
Well, Mr. Chair, thank you for the opportunity to speak. And this still strikes lines 1 through 13 of the printed bill. And 1 through 13 of the printed bill is the whole text of the bill. So this strikes the bill and substitutes a new bill. And the bill that this language that this strikes is the bill that makes it directly or indirectly to intentionally harass someone by electronic means is a misdemeanor, and it subjects a new concept. It doesn't have the direct or indirect language. It doesn't have the, or it does have the, but it doesn't apply to adults. It doesn't apply to adults. It says that it's okay, unlike the bill language that it strikes, it's okay for a domestic violence abuser to harass an over 18-year-old. And that is not an advance in the law, that is a regression in the law.
Representative Dorr.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Representative Kagan, thanks for your input. And first off, I'm going to try to address each one of your concerns directly, not indirectly. And first off, directly and indirectly are in the statute. We added, so everything you see in the bill is added into this statute. So directly and indirectly, the electronic medium is the manner. The difference is minor. This is a section that we're creating for the harassment of minors. That doesn't exist right now. Representative Fields in the presentation to committee had a bunch of minors come forward, and rightly so, and they talked about how difficult it can get sometimes growing up in today's day and age. So we want to address that. As far as for adults, that harassment statute still exists. You can't harass adults today, but we aren't dealing with that here. What we're dealing with here is adding .5 to the harassment statute and focusing on minors, where I believe the intent of the sponsor is we want to cure this problem that we continue to see too often, the harassment through language, indirectly and directly, initiated through communications of which we didn't even have 10 years ago or even maybe in some cases 5 years ago against minors. And so I'd ask for a yes vote on L011.
Representative Kagan.
Thank you, Representative Dorr. Well, I just have to say, the lines that are struck, 1 through 13, create new law. They extend new law. They extend the law. Without lines 1 through 13 of the bill, without that, if it's indirect, it's okay. If it's by other than interactive means, it's okay to do these things. In lines 1 through 13 of the bill, which is struck here, it applies to minors and people of the age of majority as well. They could be abused spouses, they could be legislators who are being harassed, they could be victims of domestic violence. Now, if we strike these lines, the changes to current law would be substituted with the changes to current law in the amendment. And those changes are much narrower. They only apply to minors. Do we really want to strip domestic violence abuse victims of the protections of this statute from being harassed, being intentionally harassed and annoyed by, say, their ex-spouse? That's the issue we have to address. And the second thing, Representative Dorr, is a point that Representative Salazar made as well. The language of 1 through 13, which you seek to strike, that is the language that everybody was brought together around. Everybody discussed how should it go. Is it going to be consistent with the First Amendment? Is it going to be consistent with past case law? Is it consistent with the rights of free speech that we all enjoy? That language that you are striking with this amendment is the language that all sides got together and agreed was appropriate language. Let's not strike what was the consensus agreed appropriate language that applies to adults and children alike, that has been vetted and determined to be within the First Amendment freedoms that we enjoy and cherish. Let's stick with the language that was consensus agreement and not try on the fly to tinker with it now and pass this bill, this amendment. Let's not do that. I urge a no vote on the amendment for all those reasons.
Representative Mr. Minority Leader.
Thank you, Mr.
I'll
Chair.
get that straightened out.
And Representative Kagan, and forgive me, I'm not a lawyer, so maybe I'm reading this wrong, but when I read through this, current law in the harassment statute, it is currently illegal for somebody to initiate communication anonymously or otherwise by telephone, telephone network, data, text message, instant message, computer network, or other systems. So if I am the abusive spouse, boyfriend, whatever it is, and I want to harass my girlfriend, wife, or whatever it is, current law already says that is illegal for me to do that. All we are adding is basically indirectly or other electronic medium. And that's what I'm saying is we should be protecting those children through the indirect, because there's other ways that you can harass those kids and go out through all the different social media and all of the different things that kids out there have nowadays. But the reality is a lot of the things that I believe you were bringing up, the way I read current law, if I'm the abusive spouse, boyfriend, or whatever, that is currently illegal for me to do that.
Representative Kagan.
I agree with much of what you said, Representative Del Grosso, but if we strike 1 through 13, page 2, strike lines 1 through 13, if we strike lines 1 through 13, that statute will revert to current law. And that statute, as it applies, will become no longer directly or indirectly. And most importantly, and this is the heart of the bill, if we strike 1 through 13, one of the major changes in 1 through 13 is that we add in line 9, which is between 1 and 13, we add in line 9 or other electronic medium or other interactive electronic medium. And that's the important change that 1 through 13 makes and that this amendment strikes.
Representative Dorr.
I understand that part of it. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Representative Kagan, thank you. And to address your first issue about directly and indirectly, and I think there was dispute even within the committee if those two words were really necessary, because the statute, the way it reads, and I'm quoting the current harassment statute, is initiates communication. And so directly or indirectly becomes the privilege of the arresting officer, the DA's office, to decide if it was initiates communication, because there's no definition if it's direct or indirect. Still allow them that flexibility. I think both sides would say that there's enough gray area to understand that. Every other piece of the language we're putting into this amendment. So we're focusing, the biggest change here, and I think you hit it, is we're focusing on minors. And the presentation to committee was, I don't remember how many were sitting there, but there were at least 7 or 8 minors from a school talking about how difficult it is, and a family of minors that had seen this. And so the intent, I believe, of the legislation is to help minors out. And that was the discussion we had, a robust discussion at the committee hearing about how do we prevent the cyberbullying when it comes to minors. And that's what this amendment does. It refocuses on that. And if I recall last year, we had a cyberbullying piece of legislation by the sponsor of this legislation, and the focus was on minors. And so I'm trying to keep consistent with minors and us protecting them, because I do think there's a good cause for that. And I do believe that the constitutional arguments that then further on when we talk about direct or indirect, and does that language chill or not chill, and is that language too vague or not, goes away, because we can be more constricting of the constitutional First Amendment when it comes to the protection of minors. For another reason, I would support this amendment and ask for a yes vote on L011.
Representative Fields.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I want to thank Representative Dorr for bringing forth this amendment as it relates to addressing minors. But as you recall, CCJJ commissioned a subcommittee, and they worked 5 months on the language. And what you see in front of you with this amendment, it is a duplication in statute. It's not necessary, Because what this bill does, and it's just one page, and what the committee came up with is just adding in current harassment code is direct or indirect communication with a person or directs language towards another person using an interactive computer device. So it covers minors and it covers adults. So I urge a no vote on this amendment.
Is there further discussion? Representative Klingenschmidt.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I rise in favor of Amendment L011. I ask for a yes vote. When we're talking about electronic media, I thought it'd be helpful for everyone to understand this is not just about Facebook or Twitter, but I have a list here of electronic media that may be impacted by the bill, and I think everyone should consider that it may impact transmission over telegraph, facsimile, analog methods of encoding since the 1830s, telephone, coaxial cable, fiber optics, radio, satellite, free space optics, internet downloading or live streaming, display and output information processing, galvanometers, telegraph sounders, telephone receivers, light red or Morse code, electronic modulating, electronic multiplexing, digitizing, which they did in 1903, electronic encryption, online routing, electronic programming, punched card and paper types, phonograph cylinders and discs, film, magnetic storage, RAM, random access memory, neon, which was used in the late 1890s, teleprinters, CRT, television, radio, and tuners, speaker and headphones, LEDs and LCDs, laser light shows could be affected by this for all you Pink Floyd fans. Computer monitors, large electronic displays, HDTV, HMD, barcodes could be impacted, laser discs, compact discs, content media, audio recordings, video recordings, data file formats, data content and formats, control panels, input devices, game controllers for all you Xbox fans, handheld or wireless glove or brain computer interfaces. Those are all of the electronic media which could be impacted. If somebody directly or indirectly annoys somebody using one of those electronic media, they could, in theory, become criminalized under the underlying bill. So that's why I rise in support and ask your yes vote on Amendment L011.
Is there further discussion on L011? Seeing none, the question before us is the adoption of L001. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed, no. L011 fails. To the bill. Representative Dorr.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I appreciate that discussion. I actually think, regardless of the outcome of that amendment, it's a good discussion to have because we're focusing on where we want the intent of this legislation to be. I still have concerns about the legislation and its chilling of speech with constitutionality questions around freedom of speech. And are we going to chill it when it comes to, is this too vague? Are we going to have situations where somebody's worried now, they're like, well, I'm not going to put that on Facebook. I'm not going to say that on Twitter. I'm not going to send that text with the worry that somebody may distribute that to a wider population and you indirectly then get in trouble with your intent never being that. And we can get into discussions about intent and all of that and what's going to happen, but I think the easiest way to do it is to take two words out, allow the initiation of communication, leaves the heart of the bill there. It leaves the heart of the outcome there. It allows the discretion to be at the DA's office, and direct and indirect don't become some kind of two words that I think can somewhat, they can muddy the discussion around was the initiation of that communication the reason for the harassment that now leads to their follow-up and investigation of what went on. So I'm running a simple amendment. Committee members, we've talked about it before. And I would offer L010 and ask that it be properly dispensed.
Representative Dorr, would you move the amendment, please?
I move L010.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is about as simple as amendment you're ever going to see. Strikes 2 words, directly or indirectly.
So L010 has been moved and properly displayed. Representative Dorr.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Strikes 2 words, directly and indirectly, leaves the heart of the bill intact, doesn't deal with the electronics mediums of it, and I think gets us to a better place going forward and removes some of the confusion that we might have currently with what does direct and indirect mean, especially in today's current environment, and what is the future environment. Because as the mediums change, as the mediums advance, it's going to be probably getting cloudier and cloudier as to what you directly sent out, or what you directly sent out that indirectly got into a bunch of other hands. So I'd ask for a yes vote.
Representative Foote. I'm having a senior moment.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Representative Dorr, I know that we spoke about this in committee as well as offline here, and I just think for the benefit of others about this discussion, what I think about when we're presented with this amendment is I look back at Colorado case law and as we heard in committee, the statute from where this language was taken from, and that was the stalking statute. The stalking statute was actually put into place in 1994, so over 20 years ago, and it was put into place to address particularly domestic violence stalking situations where, say, the offender has a protection order in place but still manages to go through indirect communication means in order to harass and then ultimately stalk the victim in the case. And this language has been around, as I said, since 1994. It's been charged, I'm sure, in thousands of cases over the last 21 plus years in Colorado courts and Colorado District Court. And looking back at that history and looking back as well at any challenges on that, challenges on the stalking statute in general, and there has been no successful challenge on direct or indirect communication within the state of Colorado. That's what I like to look at when I'm looking at whether or not there's language that's constitutional. And I'm interested if there is any other kind of Colorado law to the opposite that I haven't seen. But given what we took a look at and discussed in committee, as well as looking at what we have in our statutes, I feel like that this amendment really doesn't go after what you're trying to go after. In addition, it also really, opposite of what you said, it really does gut the bill, because the whole purpose of the bill is to try to get in some of this communication that cyberbullying is made of. So I would recommend a no vote on the amendment.
Thank you, Representative Foote. My apologies. Representative Dorr.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Representative Foote, as I guess any situation, we could probably put 4 or 5 lawyers in a room and come up with 12 different arguments around something. And while I agree that directly or indirectly with regards to the stalking statute, which is 183602 and not what we're talking about in this particular piece of legislation, the stalking statute has other requirements in it. Person commits stalking directly or indirectly through another person, okay? The person knowingly, okay, makes a credible threat in connection with, and then repeatedly follows, that's in A. Makes a credible threat repeatedly with, repeatedly in B and C of the stalking statute, and is then defined as repeatedly. And so that element of it is something that is part of the direct, indirect, and some point repeatedly. That won't exist in this current bill. There's no repeatedly part of it. Direct or indirect becomes a standalone element of which what does indirect mean? I say strike the 2 words out. We don't have that discussion. It becomes communication. It can be direct or indirect, but that becomes the privy of the court to decide if that was, or the DA's office, worth prosecuting. And I think clears it up better if we strike those 2 words, and I ask for a yes vote on the amendment.
Mr. Speaker Pro Tem, Representative Pabon.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And Representative Dorr, we do appreciate your willingness to talk about sort of the elements of criminal law, because that's an important part of what this bill does. But there's just a fundamental misunderstanding here of how these elements apply and the proof that has to be done in order for a criminal prosecution to be successful and to be held to the proof required under each element that we put into our law. So it's not that you prove the entire statement that's made. You have to prove each and every element of that statement. And if you look at the stalking laws, you look at the harassment laws, directly or indirectly is a separate element than the knowingly element, the mental state of the crime, and through another person. So the prosecutor, when they look at this case and they bring it to trial, has to prove beyond a reasonable doubt each and every element of the crime. And that includes, and in this case would be the case, directly or indirectly as an element of the crime. And as we've had this debate, I've searched thoroughly through statute, annotations, case law to understand if there was any challenge to this directly or indirectly element, and I have yet to find any. So this element is not been challenged as a violation under a vagueness statute or an other unconstitutional principle with, as you well know, Representative Dorr, those would negate that element and we would have to redraft the statute. So this is firmly planted in our criminal law, this element, directly or indirectly, and it applies here, it applies in stalking, and I bet if I spent some more time during this debate, I could find several other instances of the element directly or indirectly. And I'm happy to do that, Representative Dorr, if that would be helpful. Thank you.
Representative Dorr.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Representative Pabon, thank you for your input. And I refer to the stalking statute because, one, it was the statute that, according to the committee testimony, was the statute where this language was pulled out of. And that's why this discussion starts around it. The second concern I have around the stalking statute versus the harassment statute is the stalking statute is an act of behavior. It's something that is being done physically. It's conduct. The statute we're currently debating with regards to do we pass it or not, or the bill that will become statute, is dealing with speech. And while I agree there hasn't been a challenge to direct or indirect with regards to the stalking statute, I'm not sure they both comport to each other to the point to where they can say that indirect and directly fall in this new law that we're trying to create in the same way it does in the stalking statute and wouldn't open up those challenges because we're dealing with speech versus conduct. And so I think by striking them out, we can avoid some of those arguments, avoid potentially some of those challenges, and allow the DA's office and the courts ultimately to make the decisions where it should be, and I'd ask for a yes vote.
Representative Kagan.
Members, I would ask for a no vote on this amendment. I think it would significantly weaken the protections that the statute seeks to provide. It would significantly weaken those protections. Let's look at what, with and without the bill as written, would happen. If you want to prosecute someone who is cyberbullying, under current law, there are a couple of things that you can say as a defense. The first thing you can say as a defense is, yes, I admit that I intentionally harassed this person. But without this bill, you can say, but I did it through another interactive electronic medium. That shouldn't be a loophole that you can get through. And that's why Representative Fields very sensibly has said, if you intentionally harassed somebody, it is no defense to say, oh, well, it wasn't through a computer message, it was through another interactive electronic medium. And the second defense, and this brings us right to the heart of the amendment here, the other defense that you could say is, yes, my client intentionally harassed Joe. He intentionally harassed Joe. And yes, he did it through another interactive electronic medium. But he sent the harassing behavior, he directed it not directly at Joe, he directed it at Fred, knowing that Fred would pass it on to Joe. So I'm innocent. That's a massive loophole for people who even admit that they intentionally harassed and annoyed, to say, I didn't send it directly to the person that you're charging me with harassing. I didn't send it directly. I sent it to his brother, knowing his brother would send it to him. That should not be a defense. And this language, directly or indirectly, makes clear that if you intentionally harass somebody in violation of law and take the small step of sending it to somebody else knowing they'll send it on, making it indirect rather than direct, you are still liable. If we say you aren't, then all harassers have to do is send it to one person, knowing it'll go to the next, and you're off the hook. Is that really what we want? I suggest it is not, and I suggest we vote no on Amendment L010 for that reason.
Representative Carver.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I support the amendment for a couple of reasons. The Due Process Clause requires that when we as legislators write a law, that ordinary people can read that law and figure out what's illegal, what's prohibited, and what's legal. Due Process Clause requires that citizens get notice of what is prohibited and illegal and is going to get them a conviction. This language, direct or indirect, initiating a communication, and then if you have the bill in front of you where we are also adding the language interactive electronic media, the bill as written says that if you indirectly have a communication on the internet with the intent to harass or annoy, that you can be in potential violation of this law. Let's look at the practicality of that. Somebody posts something on my Facebook page that is critical of Representative Landgraf. They don't like her position on a particular bill. Or don't make it a public official. Just say my next door neighbor, where we've got a zoning hearing and it's very hot and people have shown up and testified at a hearing. So my neighbor, Mr. Smith, speaks out on a zoning issue. And now there's all sorts of posts on Facebook criticizing him. The indirect calls into question whether me allowing that post to stay on my Facebook page makes me subject to prosecution under this bill. What about a tweet that then is retweeted? Is that indirect communication that is going to make a person subject to prosecution under this law? That's the real-world context of this bill that we're concerned about. And so if you get rid of indirect, at the very least, you have not called into question those that are retweeting, those that have a Facebook page that now has a critical post, not of their making, but of somebody else. Are they now indirectly communicating that? We take out this language. Now the language is directs a communication that does the following harm. So I ask you to support the amendment.
Representative Fields.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And
No,
Madam Chair.
that would.
Mr. Chair,
Thank you.
and I urge once again a no vote on this amendment.
Is there further discussion? Seeing none, the question before us is the adoption of Amendment L010. All those in favor, please say aye. All those opposed, no. No! The amendment is lost. Go for it. Don't hit your... Yeah. To the bill, please. Representative Klingensmith. Thank you, ladies.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move L003 and ask that it be displayed on the screen. Yes. Hold on. It's over here.
L003 has been properly moved and is properly displayed. Please proceed, Representative Klingenschmidt.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. There are some First Amendment concerns when it comes to indirectly annoying language. And I'm sure we can all think of some times when we've been annoyed in life. We need a clarification of the word annoying. Maybe we need a clarification of the word indirectly. I think that was just discussed. Somebody's having a medical emergency on the side here. Is everybody okay? Thank you. My bill is actually inspired by the existing education statute. And for everybody who's on the Education Committee, you may be interested to know that current law in the education statute says under 22-32-1091, paragraph 1B, that bullying is already discouraged in schools. And of course, we all understand why, and we're all against bullying. And yet, that part of the education statute currently has the following words. The definition of bullying is not intended to infringe upon any right guaranteed by any person by the First Amendment to the United States Constitution, or to prevent the expression of any religious, political, or philosophical views. And so because this is already in the education statute, it would seem like a natural fit now to put it in the criminal statute, since we're now, the underlying bill is trying to amend the criminal statute. And if it's in the education statute, why is it not going to be placed in the criminal statute? Now, I offered a couple alternative amendments this morning to the bill's sponsor, Representative Fields, and I offered her an unfriendly amendment, which she immediately rejected, and I offered her this, which I believe is a friendly amendment, which she didn't state either way. I'll let her come and speak, but she handed it off to another member who expressed some concerns. But I would like to ask the bill sponsor if this initially is considered a friendly or unfriendly amendment, and if she would support the idea of just moving what is already in the education statute into the criminal statute to make sure that everybody's First Amendment rights are guaranteed.
Representative Fields.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Representative Klingenschmidt, for this amendment. You know, the way I look at this amendment is just another way to protect people who bully. So I would say no. I would vote no on this amendment. So I do not support this, this amendment. I don't think we should be using the First Amendment argument to protect those who bully. So I say no.
Representative Klingenschmidt.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Representative Fields. Since you're not in favor, apparently, of First Amendment protections for children, and you think exercise of the First Amendment would be an exercise in bullying, then I've brought...
Representative Klingenschmidt, please do not impugn the motives of our members.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I withdraw that comment. Let me just point out that we're all talking about Facebook posts, right? Facebook posts maybe that are indirectly annoying language. And I have here printed some Facebook posts, which I found last night on the Progressive Democrats of Colorado website. And I wonder, since there are some people in this room who are friends with the Progressive Democrats of Colorado, that I wonder if any of these are protected by the First Amendment, because my amendment talks about your First Amendment rights. So, for example, there's a post here that says, "Today's Republicans are mean, heartless people." Well, I don't know. If that were indirectly annoying,
excuse me,
would it also be protected by the First Amendment?
We will be in a brief recess. The committee will come back to order. Representative Klingensmith.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Let me stick to the amendment. So, the amendment says we should have First Amendment rights. These rights are already recognized in the education statute, but they would not be recognized in the criminal statute. And I think because they would not be recognized, my amendment is necessary, and I urge an aye vote on Amendment L003. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Klingensmith. Is there further discussion on Amendment 003? Seeing none, the question before us is the passage of Amendment L003. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, please say no. No. Amendment L003 is lost. To the bill, Representative Fields.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I'm so pleased that we're at the point now that I can talk about this bill and what it really means.
Representative Fields, can you speak into the microphone, please?
Sure.
Thank you.
You know, I was really taken back by the comments that were made about my position on the First Amendment. And I can tell you that there is limitations when it comes to freedom of speech. We know some of those limitations. For example, you just can't say fire when you're in a theater. There's other limitations. There was one recently when in Ferguson, we had someone who was encouraging and inciting illegal activity. When someone said, just burn it down. There is limitations when it comes to freedom of speech. There's limitations when it comes to obscenity. That's regulated. You just can't say anything that you want to say. Bullying is motivated by hate. And there's some things you shouldn't be able to say because there's consequences that are associated with bullying words. I have a family here today, and they have experienced a tragedy based on bullying, using direct and indirect comments. And those comments are disgusting, they're malice, they're hurtful, they're demeaning. And these are some of the things that were said. Everyone hates you. I can't. You are a pathetic, and you mean nothing. You should just go kill yourself. And it goes on and on and on. These kinds of comments cannot be tolerated. We need to break the cycle of hate on the internet, on Facebook, direct or indirect. Because right now, a variety of people, and it's just not minors that are doing this. There are adults doing this too, where they're posting these vicious comments in pictures and photos on the internet. Let's say you have 3,000 Facebook pages, members that like your page, and you post something up there. And I'm not talking about something minimum as a zoning. You know, this elevates to the level of crime. This elevates to the level of a police is going to investigate it, and they're going to turn over that information to a district attorney. So we're not talking about a zoning issue or how you voted on the bill. It elevates to a much higher standard. So having the right to freedom of the speech doesn't give you the right to harass someone. That's why we have a harassment statute. And so that's why I'd like to move amendment, what's my amendment number? I'd like to move amendment L005.
A little bit fuzzy. A little bit fuzzy. There we go. All right, L005. L005 has been moved and is properly displayed to the amendment. Representative Fields.
I would like to name this bill, if it passes, after Christy, because she was a vibrant young girl. She was a high school cheerleader. She was at the top of her game as it related to cheering. And if you know anything about being a cheerleader, you have to be physically fit. You have to know your routine. You have to be elected. You have to be, elected. You have to, someone reviews all the people who want to be cheerleaders, and then someone says, you're good enough to be on a cheerleader squad. She was a cheerleader. And people get bullied for all kinds of reasons. It could be you're too short, you're too tall, you're too ugly, you're too pretty, you're too poor, you're too rich, I don't like your sexual orientation. People are bullied for all kinds of reasons. And sometimes when you're bullied, you don't have the intellectual capacity to handle some of the vicious things that were said about him or her. Unfortunately, what happened to Christy? Kiana, sorry. Christy is the mom. What happened to Kiana is that she hung herself after being repeatedly bullied on the internet for over a month. And she was told to kill herself, to drink bleach and do all these kinds of things, that she's worthless. You're nobody. You should just kill yourself. And so she acted out on the vicious things that was said about her. And so her father came home and he saw that she had attempted to hang herself. He was able to cut her down in the garage, and they were able to get the emergency vehicle folks to come in to revive her, and right now she is a paraplegic right now. So the young girl that used to be a cheerleader, very popular in her school, now is not able to fulfill her promise because of the viciousness of the bullying that took place, direct and indirect. And so that's why I urge a yes vote on Amendment L005.
Is there further discussion of Amendment L005? Seeing none, the question before us is the passage of Amendment L005. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye!
All those opposed, no. Amendment L005 passes. To the bill, Representative Fields.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think we've had some real spirited debate on this topic, and I just urge a yes vote to make sure that no one else, there's got to be some accountability. Bullying and hate is not okay. So I urge a yes on House Bill 1072.
Is there further discussion? Seeing none, the question before us is the passage of House Bill 1072. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. House Bill 1072 passes. Mr. Kohler, please read the title of House Bill 1012.
House Bill 1012 by Representative Becker J., also Senator Sonnenberg, concerning a sales and use tax exemption for dyed diesel.
Representative Becker J.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move House Bill 151012 in the Finance Committee report.
Thank you, Representative Becker, to the Finance Committee report.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The Finance Committee report, all we did there was add the legislative declaration and pull out the home rule city. So I'd ask for an aye vote.
Is there further discussion on the Finance Committee report? Seeing none, the question before us is the adoption of the Finance Committee report. Those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Finance Committee report passes. To the bill, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Members, this bill just clarifies that red fuel diesel is exempt from state sales and excise tax in its use, and I would ask for an aye vote.
Is there further discussion on House Bill 1012? Representative Tyler.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to say we heard this bill in the Transportation Committee. I think it's a valuable tool to use for people in rural Colorado, and it's a good bill to support. Vote yes. Thank you.
Is there further discussion? Seeing none, the question before us is the passage of House Bill 1012. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. House Bill 1012 passes. Mr. Kohler, please read the title of House Bill 1015.
House Bill 1015 by Representative Winter, also Senator Cook, concerning the creation of an interstate compact allowing states to enter the compact to share emergency medical service providers under certain circumstances.
Nice. Representative Winter.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move House Bill 1015 and the committee reports from Public Health Care and Human Services and the Appropriation Committees.
I don't think there's a committee report for appropriations, but there is for Public Health Care and Human Services.
Then just the committee report from Public Health Care and Human
Very
Services.
good. To the committee report, please, Representative Winter.
There was one quick technical amendment. It passed out of committee 13-0.
Is there further discussion on the Public Health Care and Human Services report? Seeing none, the question before us is the adoption of the committee report. Those in favor, please say aye. Those opposed, no. The Public Health Care and Human Services Committee report passes. To the bill, please, Representative Winter.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This bill allows us to enter into an interstate compact so our EMS and EMT providers can carry their accreditation across state lines. This means our rural areas can have better regional response plans with faster and better service, easier implementation of programs like our air ambulance, and better response during emergency. This bill helps public safety and our first responders, and I urge an aye vote.
Is there further discussion on House Bill 1015? Seeing none, the question before us is the passage of House Bill 1015. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. House Bill 1015 passes. Mr. Kohler, please read the title of House Bill 1048. Oh, Madam Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move to lay over House Bill 1048 till the end of the calendar.
Without objection, House Bill 1048 will be laid over until the end of the calendar, did I hear? All right, very good. Mr. Kohler, please read the title of House Bill 1079.
House Bill 1079 by Representatives Corman, Danielson, also Senator Roberts, concerning the program for teen pregnancy and dropout prevention.
Representative Danielson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move House Bill 1079 and the Appropriations Committee report.
Thank you. To the Appropriations Committee report.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. There was a quick technical amendment from the JBC staff that adjusted slightly the overall savings to the general fund.
Is there further discussion on the Appropriations Committee report? Seeing none, the question before us is the passage of the committee report. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The Appropriations Committee report is passed. To the bill, Representative Coram.
Good bill, vote yes.
Oh. Is there further discussion? Representative Danielson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a brief explanation on House Bill 1079. This is a great bill, as Representative Coram briefly explained, that would provide a statewide program for teen pregnancy and dropout prevention, and I urge an aye vote.
Is there further discussion on House Bill 1079? Seeing none, the question before us is the passage of House Bill 1079. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. House Bill 1079 passes. Mr. Kohler, please read the title of House Bill 1075.
House Bill 1075 by Representative Janal, also Senator Crowder, concerning the authority for a registered naturopathic doctor to treat children who are under 2 years of age.
Representative Janal.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move House Bill 1075 and the Health Insurance and Environment Committee report.
Thank you. To the Health Insurance and Environment Committee report, please.
Thank you. This amendment was in a result of the collaboration of the last 2 years with naturopathic doctors and pediatricians. And what it did was it added 2 more years of continuing education in pediatrics to treat children under the age of 2. And this amendment increases the pediatric continuing education from 3 hours to 5 hours. I ask for a yes vote.
Is there further discussion on the Health Insurance and Environment Committee report? Seeing none, The question before us is the adoption of the committee report. All those in favor, please say aye. All those opposed, no. The Health Insurance and Environment Committee report passes. To the bill, Representative Janal. Or if you want. Representative Ryden.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I move Amendment L006 and ask that it be displayed. Members, this is a two-page amendment that you
Members, House L006 is a multi-page amendment. It was placed on your desks yesterday appropriately. And so L006 has been properly moved and is displayed and is available to you on your desks. Representative Ryden.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Amendment L006, members, add some additional language to the concept of the relationship between the naturopathic doctor and the other members of the medical community, and creates a more specific plan of action for working with others in the medical community. This has the endorsement of the sponsor, the naturopathic doctors, and Children's Hospital, and others, as well as Representative Joshi.
Representative Joshi.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Representative Ryden, for helping out with this amendment too. Members, we discussed this amendment a little bit during the committee meeting, and there were some questions about it. What it basically does is it creates a collaborative agreement between the pediatrician and family practice physicians and the naturopath. This way, there will be a formal relationship if in case the naturopathic doctors need any help. But at the same time, the parents are not restricted to go see the naturopath doctors directly. So this way, we kind of try to help out both ways, and I ask for your yes vote.
Representative Janal.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I do believe that this is a collaborative agreement. I think it's a very good amendment to support, and so I ask for your yes vote.
Representative Landgraf.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I agree that this is a good amendment. It strengthens the bill, and it does not take away parental rights.
Is there further discussion on Amendment L006? Seeing none, the question before us is the adoption of L006. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. Amendment L006 passes. Representative Ryden.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move Amendment L005 and ask that it be displayed.
Thank you, Representative Ryden. L005 has been properly moved and displayed. Please proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. L005 puts in place some data collection measures as part of the normal DORA sunset review process, which will be starting next year. We created this amendment not to put any additional burdens on DORA or the naturopathic doctors, but so that we could provide us and others with a better understanding of how many children are affected by this bill, and you know how that might impact any subsequent policy decisions going forward. So I urge an aye vote.
Representative Janal.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I agree. I have been working as well with Rep. Ryden as well as the parties that were involved, the naturopathic doctors, the hospitals, Children's Hospital, and I agree that this is a good amendment and urge adoption of this amendment.
Is there further discussion of L005? Seeing none, the question before us is the adoption of L005. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. Amendment L005 passes. To the bill, Representative Janal.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I urge a yes vote for House Bill 151075. It allows for registered naturopathic doctors to treat a child under 2 years of age.
Is there further discussion? Madam Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to commend Representative Janal for the hard work that you put into this bill to bring all stakeholders together. So thank you.
Any further discussion on House Bill 1075? Seeing none, the question before us is the passage of House Bill 1075. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. House Bill 1075 passes. Mr. Kohler, please read the title of House Bill 1092.
House Bill 1092 by Representative Lebsack, also Senator Martinez, Humenic, and Cofalis, concerning the transparency of Title 32 Colorado Revised Statutes Special Districts.
Representative Lebsack.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move House Bill 151092.
To the bill, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Members, this is just your run-of-the-mill Lebsack Good Government Efficiency and Transparency Bill, and I ask for a yes vote.
Is there further discussion of House Bill 1092? Seeing none, the question before us is the passage of House Bill 1092. All those in favor, please say yes or aye. Aye. All those opposed, no. House Bill 1092 passes. Mr. Kohler, please read the title of Senate Bill 21.
Senate Bill 21 by Senator Baumgartner, also Representative Vigil, concerning the repeal of the Interstate Pest Control Compact.
Representative Vigil.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move Senate Bill 21. There's the committee report.
Thank you. To the bill, please, Representative Vigil.
This is the Vigil portion of good government transparency bill also. It repeals from statute or takes from statute any reference of the department that it created. It was created, never funded. It's a department that has no use at this time, so I ask for a yes vote.
Is there further discussion of Senate Bill 21? Seeing none, the question before us is the passage of Senate Bill 21. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. Senate Bill 21 passes. Mr. Kohler, please read the title of House Bill 1192.
House Bill 1192 by Representative Becker K., also Senator Neville T., concerning the ability of specified establishments licensed to serve alcohol beverages for on-premises consumption to become part of an entertainment district authorized by a local government.
Nice. Representative Becker K.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move House Bill 1192 and the Committee on Business Affairs and Labor report.
Thank you, Representative Becker. To the committee report, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We amended the bill slightly for a technical change that was caught by the Department of Revenue to change a definition.
Is there further discussion of the Business Affairs and Labor report? Seeing none, the question before us is the passage of the Business Affairs and Labor report, committee report. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. The committee report passes. To the bill, Representative Kagan, or Becker.
Kagan?
Yeah, sorry about that. Becker, sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This bill expands the type of licensed premises that can be included in an entertainment district, allowing beer and wine licensees, manufacturers that operate your sales room, and wineries, distilleries, and breweries. It passed unanimously out of business. We are calling this the fun bill. If you like fun, vote for this bill. I ask for an aye vote.
Is there further discussion of House Bill 1192? Well, the question before us is the passage of the Fund Bill 1192. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. House Bill 1192 passes. Mr. Kohler, please read the title of House Bill 1094.
House Bill 1094 by Representative Lee, also Senators Cook and Newell, concerning restorative justice.
Representative Lee.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move House Bill 1094 and the Judiciary Committee report.
To the Judiciary Committee report, Representative Lee.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The Judiciary Committee amended the bill in 3 respects to expand restorative justice pilot program at the request of the program operators. It allows the district attorneys to waive the first offense limitation. It includes juveniles who commit municipal or petty offenses, and it makes the pre-conference questionnaire available to victims if practicable. I ask for an aye vote on the committee report.
Is there further discussion of the committee report? Seeing none, the question before us is the adoption of the Judiciary Committee report. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. The Judiciary Committee report passes. Representative Lee to the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. House Bill 1094 makes minor changes to the Restorative Justice Pilot Program passed in 2013. And in addition to the amendments, it adds 3 members to the State Restorative Justice Council and allows the Restorative Justice Coordinating Council to accept gifts, grants, donations, and money from training funds and to spend on the program. The bill passed the Judiciary Committee by a vote of 13-0, has the support of the district attorneys and the COVA. There was no opposition, has no fiscal impact. I ask for an aye vote.
Is there further discussion of House Bill 1094? Seeing none, the question before us is the passage of House Bill 1094. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. House Bill 1094 passes. Mr. Kohler, please read the title of House Bill 1106.
House Bill 1106 by Representative Sane concerning clarification of access by eligible persons to unredacted adoption records that contain identifying information.
Representative Sane.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move House Bill 1106, and there is no committee report.
Thank you, Representative Sane. To the bill, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. In 2014, the General Assembly enacted SB 14051, which passed unanimously through both this House and the Senate. SB 51 provided access by eligible persons to adoption records held by custodians of records, including courts and state agencies. However, some courts and state agencies have interpreted law to require redaction and removal of identifying information. So what this bill does is it clarifies the intent of HB 51 and clarifies to these courts and state agencies to release these records to eligible persons who are authorized in statute. This bill did pass unanimously through the Public Health Care Committee, and it has no fiscal note.
Representative Singer.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I just wanted to thank Representative Sane for her diligent work, not only last year, but continuing this year. One of the greatest atrocities we've committed as a society is denying adoptees the ability to access their own records and denying them their own past. And Representative Sane has continued to work on this. I have a feeling we'll continue to work on this in both big ways and in technical ways. And so I appreciate the technical change today and look forward to even better work in the future. Thank you.
Is there further discussion of House Bill 1106? Seeing none, the question before us is the passage of House Bill 1106. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. House Bill 1106 passes. Mr. Kohler, please read the title of House Bill 1144.
House Bill 1144 by Representative Primavera, also Senator Todd, concerning the prohibition of synthetic plastic microbeads and personal care products.
Representative Primavera.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move House Bill 1144 and the Public Health and Human Services Committee report.
Thank you, Representative Primavera. To the committee report.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The committee report added one word to make sure that we were talking about solid plastic microbeads. This makes it consistent with other states considering this same legislation. I ask for an aye vote.
Is there further discussion of the Public Health Care and Human Services Committee report? Seeing none, the question before us is the adoption of that committee report. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. The committee report passes. To the bill, Representative Primavera.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This bill passed out of committee 11-2. There's no fiscal note, and this is actually an industry bill, and they came to me because of their efforts to be good stewards of the environment. Microbeads are used in many personal care products as an exfoliant. However, microbeads are so small that they're not filtered out by wastewater treatment plants. While the full effects of microbeads in aquatic systems are unknown, small fish mistake them for food, and they can move up the food chain to be consumed by us. So House Bill 1144 phases out the manufacture and sale of products containing microbeads by January 2020. Many companies are now in the process of reformulating their products with biodegradable alternatives across the country. Johnson & Johnson, the Personal Care Products Council, the Colorado Retail Council, Colorado Water Congress all testified in favor of the bill. There was no opposition in committee, and I ask for a yes vote.
Representative Landgraf.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We did hear this in committee. I believe it's a good bill because it does allow a very long phase out, so it will not hurt businesses. As you heard, the industry does want this, because the alternative is we get a bill that says do it today, and that will hurt businesses that use these products. So I urge a yes vote.
Is there further discussion? Seeing none, the question before us is the passage of House Bill 1144. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. House Bill 1144 passes. Mr. Assistant Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move the committee rise and report.
You have heard the motion. Seeing no objection, the committee will rise and report.
Come back to order. Mr. Kohler, please read the report of the Committee of the Whole.
Madam Speaker, Committee of the Whole begs leave reports under consideration of the following attached bills being second reading thereof and makes the following recommendations thereon. House Bills 1012 amended, 1015 amended, 1070 amended, 1072 amended, 1075 amended, 1079 amended, 1092, 1094 amended, 1106, 1144 amended, 1192 amended, passed on second reading in order and gross place on the calendar for third and final passage. Senate Bill 21 passed on second reading in order revised and placed on the calendar for third and final passage.
Representative Young. There are amendments on the desk. Mr. Kohler, please read the Dorr amendment to the Committee of the Whole.
Representative Dorr moved to amend the report of the Committee of the Whole to reverse the action taken by the committee in not adopting the following Dorr Amendment L011 to House Bill 1072 to show that said amendment passed and that House Bill 1072 as amended passed.
If there is no objection to not reading the amendment at length, hearing none, please proceed, Representative Dorr.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I move the Dorr Amendment to the Committee of the Whole report. Ask that it be, is it displayed? Yeah. It's getting displayed. There it goes.
Mr. Dorr, please, Representative Dorr, please proceed.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And we had a long and drawn-out discussion about this amendment, so I'm not looking to repeat that in any way, shape, or form. But I just want to remind members, this amendment would have, in my opinion, focused the bill on where the focus of the bill, I think, is the intention, and that is minors. And we heard in committee, we heard here at the well, that there are issues out there that go along with minors. In fact, we amended the bill to reflect that. And I appreciate that and want to protect our minors from unnecessary and abusive language behavior. And I think this amendment really gets to the heart of that. It makes it about minors, the intent is about minors, and it allows us to get around that constitutional issue, which I think can be brought up if we allow too broad and too vague of language to go forward. So I'd ask for a yes vote on the Committee of the Whole amendment, the Dorr Amendment to the Committee of the Whole report.
Representative Fields.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and I urge a no vote on this. What you see in the language of this bill took a lot of hard work. CCJJ convened a subcommittee. They worked on the language of this bill for 4 months. Kiana and her family and other people who have been bullied have been waiting over a year for Colorado to speak on this issue. So I urge a no on this.
Is there further discussion on the Dorr Amendment? Representative Dorr.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I'll be very quick. Representative Fields, I appreciate the hard work that was done to the bill. The language that is in the bill is in this amendment. We aren't stripping the language out. We're just adding it to a section of harassment of minors to make it, I believe, more consistent with the intention of the bill and its outcome. And I ask for a yes vote.
Is there further discussion of the Dorr Amendment? Seeing none, the question before the House is the adoption of the Dorr Amendment to the Committee of the Whole. Mr. Kohler, please open the machine, and members proceed to vote.
Oh, right. Thank you.
Close the machine. With 30 yes, 33 no, and 2 excuse, the Dorr Amendment to the Committee of the Whole has failed. So, are there other amendments on the desk? I don't believe there are. Seeing none, Mr. Kohler, please open the machine, and members proceed to vote on the Committee of the Whole report. Representative Brown and Representative Tate. Have all the members voted? Close the machine. With 63 aye votes, no no votes, and 2 excused, the Committee of the Whole report is adopted. Reports from committees of reference.
The Committee on Business Affairs and Labor, after consideration on the merits, the committee recommends the following House Bill 1180 be referred favorably to the Committee on Finance. The Committee on Health Insurance and Environment, after consideration on the merits, the committee recommends the following House Bill 1128 be postponed indefinitely. House Bill 1141 be postponed indefinitely. The Committee on Local Government, after consideration on the merits, the committee recommends the following Senate Bill 41 be referred to the Committee on Whole Favor recommendation. The Committee on Transportation and Energy, after consideration on the merits, the committee recommends the following House Bill 1207 be amended as follows and ask the amendment be referred to the Committee of the Whole with a favorable recommendation.
Message from the Senate.
Madam Speaker, the
Message
Senate.
from the Senate printed in the Journal. Message from the Reviser.
We hereby transmit without
Message
comment.
from the Reviser printed in the Journal. Madam Majority, well, are there further announcements or introductions? Madam Majority Leader. Oh, Representative Vigil, did you have an announcement or introduction? Okay, and Representative Primavera. Oh, we could do the resolution if you want. Okay. So I will take back announcements and introductions, and we will move to the resolution. Mr. Kohler, please read the title of HJR 1009.
House Joint Resolution 1009 by Representatives Primavera and Neville P. Also Senators Lambert and Todd, concerning the 10th anniversary of the partnership between the Colorado National Guard and the Jordanian Armed Forces, expressing the condolences of the state of Colorado to the family of Captain al-Qasasbeh, and condemning the terrorist acts of the Islamic State of Iraq and the Levant.
Representative Primavera.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I move to concur with Senate amendments to House Joint Resolution 15-1009.
The motion is to concur with Senate amendments to HJR 1009. Is there further discussion? Representative Primavera.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I don't know if you remember on Military Appreciation Day, but we had a resolution concerning the partnership between Jordan and the Colorado National Guard. This was prior to the brutal murder at the hands of the ISIL terrorists of First Lieutenant of the Royal Jordanian Air Force Moaf al-Qasabeh. He was burned to death while trapped in a cage. This is in violation of international law and human decency. He was 26 years old. He was one of 8 children from a prominent Jordanian family, and he was married to an engineer. So we just wanted to add language to this resolution to express our condolences and outrage for his brutal murder.
Representative Neville.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I encourage a yes vote on this. I think this is an important amendment to the resolution just to show our resolve with the nation of Jordan.
Is there further discussion? This is to accept Senate amendment to resolution. See no further discussion. Mr. Kohler, please open the machine and have all the members vote. Representative Pabon, Representative Lee, Representative Ransom. Representative Pabon. Close the machine. Representative Pabon is fined $3. With 63 ayes, no noes, and 2 excused, the motion to concur is passed. Madam Majority Leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I move for the repassage of HJR 15-1009 as amended.
Seeing no further discussion, the question before us is repassage of HJR 1009. Mr. Kohler, please open the machine and members proceed to vote. Representative Danielson, Representative Rankin, and Madam Speaker. Close the machine. With 63 ayes, no noes, and 2 excused, HJR 1009 is passed as amended. Now, announcements and introductions. Representative Primavera.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Public Health Care and Human Services will meet in room 0107 in 10 minutes.
Representative Vigil.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. CDC will meet up in room 356 in 10 minutes.
Representative Lee.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. This is for next week on Tuesday. Judiciary Committee will meet at 1:30 to hear bills 1153, 1091, and 1019. Thank you.
Any further announcements or introductions? Seeing none, Madam Majority Leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I move to lay over the balance of the calendar until February 17th at 10 a.m.
The motion is to lay over the balance of the calendar until Monday at 10 a.m. Tuesday. You're right. Tuesday at 10 a.m. Seeing no objection, so ordered. Madam Majority Leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Everyone have a wonderful 3-day weekend and happy Valentine's Day. I move to adjourn the House until February 17th at 10 a.m.
The motion is to adjourn until Tuesday at 10 a.m. Have a great weekend, everybody, and so ordered.